Louder. We are wrapping up our theme this month of Back to Basics, back to the basic teachings of science of mind and religious science. And what is the basic teaching? This is the last Sunday, so I'm going to ask, I'm going to call on some of you. Let's see, what would be the one first premise, do you think? I just gave you the clue. There is one. There is one power, right? One power that is all, living through, in, as, all, everywhere present, in its full force. Goes by many names.
It's in every one of us.
It's in every, and yes, that's right, is in every one of us. Can't be anywhere else, can it? It's everywhere present. All. Nothing is excluded. Nothing is excluded. And we know it by some of these qualities that we can kind of wrap our arms around sometimes a bit, of love and joy and fullness and infinite being, harmony, abundance, all of those things are those qualities that we kind of label it as. This love, really, and we call it God, that's one of the words, though, that gets some people's, bars come up with them, and they have issues or history around this word God. So we call it love a lot of times. And this love, then, in our teaching, in our science of mind teachings, this love is spirit. It's in the unseen realm, correct? It comes into form, comes into our experience through what we call law. The law is an impersonal principle. That is. Love is the creative energy. Love is that infinite being. But it goes through the law in order to come out in form, in the manifest form. And we, each one of us, is that individualized expression of the one in our own perfect way, unique. And we all have the law of our being as well, that we work with, play with, use. That's how our life gets experienced. That's what comes forth in our life. We all are that love, but then we have this law that is the subjective. It's our beliefs. What do we believe? That's one of our core teachings is let's unbury our beliefs. Let's get down to, well, what is it that I was thinking in order that this thing came out in my life? So we learn. We look at what we are experiencing in our lives, and we want to make adjustments from there. So we have this teaching symbol, that's the round, like the beach ball, with the 3 layers on it, and we have the spirit at the top, the love, the creativity, and the middle section being the law, that goes through, and the end down at the bottom is our experience, is our physical form. And so we find out what happened here, and then we go back up this V, that if you look at our teaching symbol, there's a V. The V is this power and energy coming down that gives us our experience, but then we want to look and go back up and say, how did this happen? Are there any adjustments I want to make? Is there anything I want to change in my life? Does anybody want to change anything in their life? Yeah? That's a good thing, huh? Because you know what? It's going to happen anyway. Ernest Holmes tells us that the law is infinite, but man appears to be finite. That is, he has not yet evolved to a complete understanding of himself. So we are this infinite being, yet we are having this human, finite experience. Until we come to the understanding of ourselves, the complete understanding of ourselves. Anybody know anybody that's come to the complete understanding of themselves?
I didn't know.
But it's going to be, I'll give you the answer. One word. Jesus the Christ. Buddha.
Wayne Dyer answered.
Wayne Dyer.
Yeah.
He is a modern day mystic. We have mystics, examples of people who have known and experienced and lived and taught from their living the rest of us. Joel Goldstein. There's a lot of teachers, a lot of folks that have gone through these levels. We've talked about, last week, we talked about the 4 levels of spiritual maturity. And the first level being the victim level, that life is happening to me. And in that level, we do not take responsibility. Somebody else. We're blaming and shaming someone else for what's happening in our lives. And, let's see, now I'm going to have to move that. We have, when we get to going up this ladder, so to speak, of spiritual maturity, when we recognize that being the victim really isn't the truth of our being, that's really not the truth, we move up to that second level. But in order to do that, we have to get rid of something. We have to get rid of the shame. We have to get rid of the blame, to let it go. And many people that come into our teaching just love the second level, which is called the manifester, saying that I'm doing it. You know, life isn't doing it to me. I'm doing it to life. I'm naming what I want. We had that in the Thought for the Week. We have the 5 levels of our spiritual mind treatment, our affirmative prayer. We've been reviewing that every month as well. Every week and this month we've been doing that. Are you ready to receive? And we recognize that we can make it happen. Woohoo! I can claim it and I can name it and it's going to happen. But then we move on to the 3rd level. And in order to move to the 3rd level of maturity, of spiritual maturity, which is I am the vessel, that this spirit is going through me, we've got to give up control. We've got to give up my way and opening up to thy way, opening up to God's infinite plan. And our 4th level of spiritual maturity is as me. There is no separation. There is one, and I am sure of it. Totally sure of it. So that's our review of spiritual maturity. Our topic today, by the way, is principles of successful living. And as I'm looking at my bookcase, one of them, and I'm noticing, oh, look at here, there's a book from Jack Canfield entitled Principles of Successful Living. Great book. Yeah. And so I thought, well, let me just thumb through this and see if there's anything in here that might be pertinent to our topic, seeing as it's the same title. And he has in there, at the beginning of it, he said, there's an equation at the beginning of the book. How many of you are good in math? I don't see. There's one hand. Good grief, people. Hey, I can use a calculator with the best of them. No?
I can like
Well, that's a good thing to say, because math is a principle. Math doesn't change. That's what we're talking about here, law. Law doesn't change. Well, his equation in his book is E plus R equals O. E is an event. You would think in it, an event. Something happens. Plus our response. Event plus response, the way we respond to it, equals our outcome. So something happens in life, and it's the way that we respond to it that will ultimately give us the outcome, the results that we have. How many times have you had eyewitnesses at a certain event? Something happened, and each person saw something totally different. That's because it's their perception of where they're coming from. And when we know the truth, when we're living on that fourth dimensional plane, knowing the truth, then we know that only love is here. No matter what it might look like, no matter how messy it might appear, truly, my spiritual eye and my focus is going to be going to where's the love. We had a great retreat a couple weeks ago where we had Reverend Arthur Hammonds was one of our speakers. And in his talk, he reminded us, he's very demonstrative, and he went on this great story about himself and so forth. But coming up, the bottom line, really what the essence was that he was teaching, was the fact that when somebody asks you a question and your first response is, I don't know. And you freeze, and you go, I don't know. You're not sure. I don't want to do the wrong answer, so I don't know. But in truth and in reality, we do know. There is something within us that knows. I have a quote here somewhere on one of these pages that I wanted to share with you. Yes, Ernest Holmes. There is a divine intelligence that knows the right answer. The spirit within man is God, and only to the degree that we listen to and seek to obey this spirit shall we really succeed. Now, what's the definition of success? Anybody remember? Joy is the essence of success. Joy is the essence of success. When you are in joy, you are successful. Is joy and happiness the same thing? There's a difference, isn't there? Happiness seems to be a little bit more on the surface. Lots of things can, quote, make you happy. But the joy is something that comes from deep within. That is not based on anything exterior whatsoever. Joy has nothing to do with what's going on the outside. And so when we are in joy, we are in our truth. Because that's what we are. Canfield comes back as he talks about that equation. Event plus our response equals our outcome. He said you can only have control over three things in your life. The thoughts you think, the images you visualize, and the actions that you take or your behavior. How you use these three things determines everything you experience. Very similar to what our teachings are. Same kind of thing. What you have inside of you, what you bring out, what you focus on, that gets amplified and is in your experience. When we access this divine intelligence within, recognize it's going to be something new. It's going to be something different. It's a new creation. And that's good. It's okay. So most of the time, we don't like to think of ourselves as risk takers. How many risk takers do I have in this room? Good. Yay. Well, then you're going to be doing something new and something different every single moment, aren't you? And you say, bring it on. Yeah? Why not? If you know you are an infinite being and you have within you this power that's unlimited, why not go for it? What's holding you back? Yourself. And that's a little s. Your little self. Not your big self with a big S, but your little ego self is what's holding you back. We are infinite beings. So wake up. Don't be lulled into thinking that you're anything less than something infinite. James Thurber. Let's not look back in anger or regret or forward in fear, but around in awareness. You see, one of the basic teachings is the fact that we are living this life at this moment. Life can only be lived now, at this moment. And so every time we bring ourselves back to the past, or every time we draw ourselves up to the future, we are losing and not allowing the present to be present. Every time we're concerned about what is going to happen, what if, you know what we're doing? We're setting the law in motion, and we are drawing that energy to us. Ugh. Think about what you want, not about what you don't want. It's so simple. Let's everybody do that, huh? I have one more thing that I wanted to share with you as we're doing these basics this month that I haven't yet brought up, though I have in other years, and if you've gone to any Science of Mind classes, you have seen this. And I just think it is so cool because it just puts into a visual concept the energy, because all of this is energy, which is unseen, but yet it shows up, as our experience. And so I'm going to share with you, which if you had gone into any religious science quick starts, the coach to everywhere. Everybody remember the coach to everywhere? Is this new for you? The coach, and I don't know, this is a kind of a little small sample of it, but there is a coach. You remember, Cinderella. Okay, there's a coach. You know what a coach is? Or in the Westerns, there's a coach. The coach has a person inside of it, right? That's the passenger. That's the person that's being driven around with the coach. There's a driver that sits on top of the coach that is the one directing the horses, taking the coach, right, through life. Well, this whole little scenario is us. These are our lives. This is a sample of our lives. The coach, what we're sitting in, is our physical being, our body. The little master within the coach, that's our God self. That's our higher self. That's our intuitive knowing. That's our person. That's the core spiritual center of us. It knows the highest and best good for us always. It sees it for us always. That's within us. Well, it communicates. It's like this little lightning bolt in this example. There's a communication between the lightning bolt getting to the driver. The driver is the guy sitting on top of the stagecoach, right? The driver is our mind. The driver is our thoughts. And so we have this wonderful being, this beautiful, pure being within us, trying to communicate to our mind. And our mind is sitting there with the reins holding the horses. The horses, those are our emotions. Because the horses take us. They move us, emote. So the horses are pulling this physical being around. But they're being guided by the mind, the driver. Now, the driver has these reins. He has the reins, that are hooked to the horses, right? And that's how he steers. Now he makes the horses, the emotion, know what to do. However, and then there's this harness that goes directly from the horse, from the horse to the carriage, to the coach. And that's a solid piece. Well, if the horses, your emotions, are not being properly directed by the mind, which is being directed by the heart, by the love, by the joy and the harmony, and the mind is doing all sorts of other stuff, and it's allowing the emotions, the horses, to do all sorts of other things as well, what happens to the coach? The horses are pulling that coach flying down the steep terrain, or maybe over a cliff, or whatever the case may be. And your physical body is going to have the results. So the little guy inside the coach, your little pure self, is saying, hey, listen to me. I don't need to be drug around. You don't need to be drug around. Know our truth. Know our peace. Know that love is here to guide the mind, to guide the emotions, to let those emotions bring us to whatever purpose that we have. Every one of us has her own individual, unique purpose here. Yeah, maybe I'm good at math, or maybe I'm good at writing, or maybe I'm good at whatever, skydiving. Lord knows, and you know what? It's infinite. And it's going to be different. Our lives, as we live them, are going to be increasingly allowing us to experience more of this infinite being that we are. Leighton Ford. Anybody know who Leighton Ford is? Leighton Ford's mentor is Billy Graham. He's evangelistic Christian. And I love what he said. He said, God loves me so much, he accepts me just as I am. But he loves me too much to leave me that way. God loves me so much, he accepts me just as I am. But he loves me too much to leave me that way. We are this infinite being that is always going to express the beauty that we are when we listen to the little man inside the coach. When we listen to that little voice inside the coach. Trusting our intuition. Trusting it and not letting the mind say, no, 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 that's not right. Trust it and take the risk. Take the risk. Because over every blade of grass, there is a little angel whispering, grow, grow, grow. And so it is. Namaste.